Oh!
Yeah?
Yeah!
Yeah.
Oh, good morning! Wow! Girls all over town and beyond are gonna fucking... Oh, they're gonna...
How can they still be talking, man?
Matt, they're college kids. Let them have their fun.
I'm all for having fun, man, but you cannot have fun for 24 hours a day for 4 months!
Matt, I can feel your blood pressure from here. Look, after 30, our lives are over. Done. 20s, we need to be living it.
Do you know how many articles I have to write?
No.
Check the website.
Okay. How about this? You take just 30 minutes of decompression, relaxation, alcoholization, and reviewing a terrible movie.
A movie's 90 minutes, David.
Yeah, but we already watched the movie, somehow. So, 30 minutes. That's all it is. We watched a movie today.
Frat Star.
Frat Star. What to say about Frat Star?
Frat Star, 1 star.
Well, that's it. There you go. Done. Moving on. Okay.
I'd rather watch Fist of the North Star. Which is actually a great show.
Frat Star. I'm going to give plot really quick because we have a lot to talk about. Frat Star follows a guy named Nick Cooper. He is going to an Ivy League college, and he is one of those, I got to study in college about trying hard, doing all that. But he gets into a dorm room with a guy named Billy. And Billy is the one that's like, no, college is for partying.
You remember the Dexter's Laboratory episode when he goes to college? That.
Yeah, so he's just like, all right. So he tries to pull Nick out of his shell a little bit. And they go for a frat called Phi Delta, just called Phi Delta. He ends up meeting this girl named Rosanna.
Yes.
And Rosanna and him really kick it off, but only in that, like, you know, they're both, they don't really get into the whole frat thing. But over the course of the movie...
And he's also really trying to go into the frat because his dad was a frat guy, like to the extreme.
It's something that's very expected of him.
Which is kind of weird.
So, over the course of the movie, Nick is a schizophrenic, pretty much. He has the Tyler Durden sort of thing going on.
Yeah.
Where he sees a better version of himself, the version he wishes he could be, confident and outgoing and...
Coked up and yuppie.
Yep, and he's just like... and whenever he listens to that version of him, things go well at the beginning.
He wants to be Patrick Bateman.
Over the course of the movie, he starts becoming womanizing. He loses Rosanna's trust because of it. He's...
Didn't have much to begin with, actually.
Yeah, not really, but he definitely lost it by the end. He ruins his friendship with Billy. He becomes an utter and complete douche, and he's everything that he's impressing these when he's pledging. He's impressing the frat leaders, and he's just like, yeah, no, I'm totally into this. But he's ruined everything in his life to get there. However, it's come out that they discovered that he got there not based off of money and stuff like that, like everyone else in that frat did, but because of like his grades and stuff. And so he got a financial aid, and that's not allowed.
Ooh.
So the movie then goes to the point where
he's got FAFSA.
They're bringing in all the pledges, and they're doing these terrible things to them. And then he's like, "All right, everyone gets in except for you, Nick and Chad. You're gay, Chad. Everyone gets in except for you, Nick."
Until you admit that you're gay, you can't be in here.
Pretty much. But with Nick, he's just like, you lied, you're poor, get out. And Billy's the one that actually is just like, no, you ruined this friendship, bye. And then it ends with him having to go home and tell his dad that he didn't get into the frat. And it turns out that the other personality, the yuppie one, just took over. It's just like, no, I'm not going to let you tell him that. No, I'm going to say everything's fine. We're going to go back to college, and I'm going to run your life. And then the movie ends with no resolution to...
whatever was going on.
Anything with Rosanna, anything with Billy, anything with anything, except for the fact that he ruined his life and he can never get it back.
Alright. Now, there's a couple of movies that, or I should say a couple of stories, because they were all adaptations too, that are, very pronounced throughout this story. You know, Fight Club is one, only at the end, mind you.
Yeah.
You have the opening, you have the closing, and you have like one or two moments in the actual movie.
He occasionally sees the alternate version of himself, and like there's one point where he's just talking to himself.
Whatever that Michael Cera movie is, where he plays like the cool version of himself.
You know, the one that doesn't matter.
Yeah. It's just like, you know, it was kind of like going for that, but at the same time, it reminded me a lot of the story The Rules of Attraction, which is another story written by Bret Easton Ellis, the guy who wrote the original American Psycho. And it's just these vapid, bored college kids doing stupid, inane shit. And of course, that's the point. Like, there's not a solitary moment throughout, except in the very beginning, where I was kind of a little shaky on it. For the most part, there is barely a moment in this where I do not realize that this is a satire.
Yeah.
This is very obviously a comedy that is meant to be playing on these tropes, especially in that one scene where the chapter head is like going around to each one of the people and it's just like, so what is the best movie ever made?
Eyes Wide Shut?
Wrong! Boondock Saints!
Oh, by the way, the Michael Cera movie was Youth in Revolt.
Youth in Revolt. Yes, I never did see it.
Neither did I.
So I remember it was a thing because like that was like right after when Superbad came out.
When he was on top of the world.
And then he's been in stuff.
Anyway, but yeah,
we'll get to him eventually, maybe.
I mostly agree with Matt. I'm not as hard on it. I definitely think that it was a satire in the fact that they played up all these frat things to 1,000.
Yeah.
Like they didn't say like, oh no, this happens at frat. This is a realistic. No, of course not.
There was the young Republican frat brother who was just like, how dare you have blue cups?
You're wearing blue. Trump.
But then he has a line to a black actor.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you can't just say this. I'm like, whoa, dude, no.
And then they just stop the scene. They just keep going with some other stuff. It's like, whoa, hold on, back.
They also call the black guy Token.
Yeah.
But he's okay with. I'm like, all right, the character Token in South Park. That character is actually named Token.
Yeah.
So that's the epitome of the joke. I think one of the problems with satire is that this is a little too on the nose, especially when it was like referencing, what was it, that one frat that did all of like the neo-Nazi like blackface like shit during like Halloween.
They said there was a Halloween, which chapter of their frat, chapter did a Halloween party called Nazi Negro.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, wow. And there was the one of our first introductions to this frat is at a party. They're all sitting outside talking. And it smash cuts mid-conversation that they're having. And the first line we hear from them is like, yeah, but no, segregation wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, okay, that's setting the tone.
Now, the funny thing is, I can understand this type of satire because this really, it's kind of weird because this might catch a little flack if anybody listens to it. It's if you know of the original movie or of the Netflix original show Dear White People, which it is entirely a satire on this type of like kind of racist undertones in college cultures, especially in fraternities and sororities. That's fine. That's fine. And actually, we said several moments throughout this movie, there are really funny moments that are like, okay, that's epitomizing the craziness of this aspect, but it takes itself too seriously the rest of the time. If I actually, like, it's still a comedy, it's still playing for it, but it's not playing for laughs because it's showing the ridiculousness of it. It's playing for laughs because it's trying to say the most shocking thing about it.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that I told you my thought on it was that
South Park without the commentary.
I felt that it went for a high risk, high reward sort of comedy setup. It threw the most off the wall shit and saw what stuck. And the times that it stuck. It was funny. It was good. But it was high risk comedy. When it didn't land, it didn't land.
This is kind of like inappropriate comedy, but slightly more competent.
Yes.
And also not a stupid array of fake
anthology
shows and stuff like that. I will say, though, technically, that I was actually impressed at certain points.
Oh, yeah.
There's this one scene where where I also mentioned it, where he's like going down, I was like, what's this best thing? What's that best thing? Where it's this one shot that they're just racking focus along with him walking back and forth. That was impressive.
He's walking up and down the line of pledges, and it follows him focus-wise without ever moving the camera.
Yeah, very well. I mean, I'm just like that. Like even digitally, that takes a lot of effort to get 100% right. So I'm curious how many times they had to do that.
Yeah, well, that also, I want to lead that into the script writing, because I felt that a lot of some of the more outlandish stuff, and maybe some of the stuff that didn't land that much, was probably improv, if I had to say. Like, maybe they had a general idea and like certain lines that they wanted said, but a lot of things seemed to be just so talking over each other and so able to be just like edited around that it seemed as though they were kind of just doing a whole thing for probably like 5-10 minutes, and they took the best lines out of it and said, hey, this is like, that's what happened at the beginning of the scene. One of the examples that I thought was more noticeable was they did Never Have I Ever.
Yeah.
And that's just leading into a scene. That's just going into the rest of the scene. But they do 2 of them. And the way that they're reacting to each other, it seems as though like they had probably went around a few times, each of them just saying some crazy outlandish thing, and they picked the ones that were the best. Like I think it was Never Have I Ever Tried to Suck My Own Dick, and Never Have I Ever Had Sex with a Girl Over 200 Pounds, to which another guy responded like, does it count if you have sex with 2 100-pound girls? And it's like, no, that doesn't count. I feel like both of those were just like the funniest deliveries of like everybody else's lines, and they just took those. And that happened several times throughout the movie.
I don't know. I mean, like, I can understand that if that actually was the case, but considering the way that the rest of the script is written down, I wouldn't be surprised if that was already scripted too.
I think that some version of it was scripted. I think that they had something.
Yeah, there might have been an outline to it. I mean, it could go either way. And there's one movie that I told David about, and for people who have been a part of this site for a very long time will know I've actually done a review on this already. It was a movie called American High School that was released in 2009. And I think the first words out of my mouth about this movie was, this movie is so fucking bad. And it is. It actually would have been perfect ShitFlix fodder if we were doing the show back then. But the movie itself has a lot of scenes where, like, this is obviously improv. This is obviously they're just waiting around for the actors to end the scene somehow, and they somehow segue from one scene to the next. There's a couple sections in that movie, and in this movie especially, where there's just some crazy, like, intercut weird transitions between, like, that make no sense, that they're not connected to the scene prior or the scene succeeding it, and it's just, we're made to accept it.
Yeah. The entire course of this movie is 4 months. Very explicitly, they say, they show the very last scene in the movie as sort of like the teaser thing, and then they say 4 months earlier. So the entire course of this thing is 4 months, which I can take some of those transitions as being like time supposed to be passing,
but it doesn't give me any impression that that's happening.
There's one in particular, and I know which one that really stood out to us. There's one scene that cuts like multiple times of him like studying in the library or whatever
to the other guy
that's just running in slow motion
with like a robe and like these boxers,
shirt open, and like that, if anything, shows no time is passing because it's just this one thing.
Yeah, if it was cutting new things back and forth,
crazy, and there was a scene during the pledge stuff. They kept on cutting to all the sorority pledges and the frat pledges.
Yeah.
They kept showing all these different crazy things they were doing in rapid succession.
Yeah.
Which gave a sense of time passing.
It is called concurrent montage. And it is used to show a passage of time happening simultaneously in 2 spots.
So they obviously knew how to do it.
Yeah, we know you understand the theory.
It was just weird in certain segments that it didn't seem like any time was passing, yet you're trying to get across that time was passing.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get into the actors. There are 3 main ones, and then there's supporting cast. The 3 main ones are Nick Cooper, the main guy that we follow, Billy's Billy, and
whatever the Billy is,
Rosanna, I feel is worth mentioning.
Rosanna.
So I'm going to start at the bottom, work my way up here. The supporting cast. I like the supporting cast. I especially like the frat leader guy. because he was just
he owns it.
Joy.
He owns it. I mean, like his face. His.
There's one part in that same part that whole rack focus scene totally worked, like whole way through, because at the end of that scene, as he's like quizzing Nick to try to get something, he's just like duh, 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 duh. And as he can't get out the answer, he's just and he's just like, this guy is like legitimately crazy, and I love it.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how he was directed, or how he was just let to go off the walls.
Oh yeah. In much the same way though, Billy. In the opening parts of the movie, because once again he mellowed out, but in the opening scenes.
Yeah, and also that's one of the reasons why I think they needed him to be the main entryway into this lifestyle, and then he is made to be the sobering force.
Yeah.
So like he starts off crazy, like, all right, let's abandon everything, let's do some crazy shit, and let's party,
fuck all that other shit,
and let's
fuck girls,
let's fuck girls and fuck responsibilities and all that kind of stuff. But by the end of the movie, he's just like, man,
you fucking douche.
You fucked up, man. You got to get your life online. You got to get your life on straight.
He doesn't even see that life on straight. Okay, so me and you both had a thing that, well, I had a thing at least, that the moral of the story might have been, before it ended, we were saying that the moral of the story might have been the Cat in the Hat moral. It's fun to have fun, but you need to know how.
Life in moderation.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel as though Billy is the example of that. He's the example of, he knows how far to take these things, but he knows how far is too far. Nick, who wasn't exposed to this life, doesn't know anything about it, he gets into it, he goes feet first, just boomed in.
I did this to me.
Yeah, exactly. And he just goes off the wall with it to the point where Billy can't even bring him back. And I feel like Billy is the more interesting character in that way.
Billy is definitely the more, I would say, more. He reminds
like
me
him more.
He reminds me of Andrew Garfield's take on Eduardo Savran.
Yes, that's a good one.
He really does.
He's not as straight-laced in the beginning though, because Eduardo was very straight-laced throughout. But he was definitely that sobering force to let the audience relate.
And he dressed nice. He was the best dresser of everybody.
Yeah. Although we were a bit confused by him wearing business casual up top, shorts on the bottom.
I'm like,
that was a bit weird.
Like really like tight shorts, like halfway up on the thigh. And I'm just like, one, that looks weird as fuck. And he was wearing like a full tie and everything too. I'm like, oh, these fucking white ass yuppies.
But both characters, Eduardo and Billy, are the audience. They let the audience know that the main character has gone too far.
Yeah.
That they have crossed a line.
But honestly, what's sad is that ultimately, at the end of the movie, that's the only purpose that they're ever set up to serve. And they don't really have much of anything else. There's
the broken friendship aspect is also there.
But there's no types of, there's not even any type of attempted redemption scene or anything like that. It's just like, I did get in the frat, and then I just told my dad I got in the frat. And
I let Tyler Durden take over my life.
Which made no sense because, except for one time, it's just like, oh, no, just take over.
Yeah, that's, you were looking at your computer or something at that scene. They really did drive that home, though. In that scene, they really did drive home the fact that it's just like, I am going to make things better. Give the voice to me. It's the movie Split, where it's just like, hey, give me the light. I want the light. I'm going to make things better now. It's that sort of thing. I want to talk about
But they don't do it fully enough throughout the movie to make it an actual through line.
Yeah.
If it was something that he was constantly talking back and forth with somebody else, that would have been different.
Oh yeah, throughout from, I would say, the beginning of Pledges really to the end, he's just constantly in that mode. You never see him debating on what the right thing to do is. The only time there's a moment, I'm going to have to explain this. The only time there's a moment that he does have this half debate is they're doing their final tasks as pledges, and his task is to go to this girl he's been banging room, break in, and fuck her up the ass.
Yeah.
Now...
And she
ends up framing him in getting Rosanna to see them together, even after he said, I'm not the womanizing type, I'm not just random hookups or whatever. So she sees him doing that, and he's like, well, you just ruined like this good thing I had with this girl. And it's like, no, you ruined it. You were fucking me. By the way, you coming in here in the middle of the night is grounds for expelling. So either you fuck me, or I will get you expelled.
I mean, that's a hell of an ultimatum.
And that's like a half debate in his mind, but I say half debate because he's like, well, on the one hand, I'm going to take the one hand.
It's only one hand here.
Of course you're going to have sex with her. That's not...
And also, that kind of situation is so bizarre. And that isn't necessarily to say that you can't have movies that have this type of interaction between the characters.
No.
I mean... Honestly, I got a lot of vibes from Bret Easton Ellis books. I got a lot of vibes from Rules of Attraction, Less Than Zero.
Just douchey people.
These really douchey-ass yuppies doing shitty things to people and shitty things to each other just because they can.
I do want to talk about...
And maybe that's the point.
Yeah, I want to talk about Rosanna's part, though, because it was a decent mirror to Nick's story.
Yeah.
In that she's trying to get into Zeta Beta.
Whatever.
I think they said ZB material. I'm assuming that's Zeta Beta. She's trying to get into that frat, and they keep on like trying to break her down in the sense of showing Nick sleeping with all these girls, because she admitted that she likes him. And at the end of the movie,
what bitches?
They convince her, give up on Nick. He's a douche. Fuck him. Go fuck Billy. So her and Billy end up getting together, and like
Billy.
And there's no indication that that's just a one-time thing. It fully seems like she's like
going for it,
and the movie ends without any resolution to that at all,
or any continuation whatsoever.
So it's just like, no, that just kind of happened, and we're just dealing with that.
This is all over the span of 4 months, mind you.
Yeah, this is a
lot of shit that goes on, man.
That was one more comment I made in the movie, was like, a lot of times when you're going for like the redemption arc of a because we thought it could be going redemption arc, like he hits his lowest, he has that scene we saw at the beginning, and then he gets better.
That's the usual kind of comedy arc.
A lot of time that they do that, they don't let the main character get that hateable. He doesn't go that deep, so that you can easily come back. There was a scene where he was doing multiple hits of cocaine and immediately told his best friend, who he had nothing but good feelings for before this scene, just to go fuck himself. And we're just like, wow, no, you completely have no redemption.
That is true.
And the movie was correct. He had no redemption.
But then the ending makes absolutely no sense.
That's something we do need to talk about.
Like, the ending has him, like, coming home to try to tell... he told his mom that he didn't get in. She says you have to come home and tell your dad in person. He's like, okay.
For some reason.
Yeah, I mean, okay. I mean, also, like, why the fuck is this so important? But, I'm not a part of that lifestyle or that community, so I don't know.
Fuck frats.
Fuck frats. I never liked him. One of my roommates was a frat back in, was a frat. He was a frat back in
He
college.
was the entirety of Pi Delta. All of it.
All of it, man. Seriously. He was the broish bro. He was a decent dude, though. But, it's just, oh my god, the ending, because of, it just springs out of nowhere of how he just walks in, getting ready. Also, he looks the most emo he's ever looked in the entire movie.
Yeah.
Like, all of a sudden he's wearing, like,
the beanie
and shit.
He's not prep as he was.
The scarf,
To be fair, he is an art major, so.
But he wasn't dressing like that the entire movie. And then he comes in and he sees his alter ego like sitting on the couch. It's like, yeah, I knew you could get in. I knew you could get in. Yes.
And then he's standing over there.
He turns around.
And then they show the scene from the beginning where it's like, what, you think I'd let you tell him? No, I'm in control now.
And then the real guy fades away
as the alter ego takes control
and just walks away.
Cut Frat Star, and it's like, what happened there?
Like, I don't know. Like, is this setting up to be a sequel? Is it going to be a Frat Star 2?
There's a Fight Club 2 comic.
When I Googled this, there was people looking for a Frat Star 2 because it was an actual recommendation on Google search.
Yeah.
So people are apparently...
People think that wasn't a satisfying enough ending. You need a sequel. Or something.
People want a sequel, apparently. They want some closure.
Oh, yeah, they want to see, hey, all those plates you left spinning?
Like everyone?
Maybe, do something with that. I don't know. All right.
And you don't even need redemption arcs involved with this. I'm okay, like just like with American Psycho, just like Less Than Zero. There are plenty of great stories out there about this subculture that have absolutely no catharsis, and actually it makes it more realistic. But because you're going for a satire. Actually, I don't know. I'll take a step back.
Okay.
Like, because the thing is, though, even if you're doing a satire, you can still have what's it that
downer ending.
Yeah, you can have that downer ending, and because satires are not necessarily comedies,
No.
but this is played up to be a comedy.
This is played up to be balls to the wall, which inherently lends itself to comedy. Admittedly, though, we were in the comedy section, I believe.
Yeah, but sometimes, like,
I went through like 8 sections today picking this movie, so I'm not entirely positive.
Dude, I've seen some movies in the thriller section, and I'm like, that is not a fucking thriller.
No, definitely not. But I'm willing to put that.
I have a thing about that coming out soon.
I'm willing to put that this is, I don't know.
This is comedy. It's a dark comedy.
Yeah, it's dark comedy, but like, it does share a lot with those movies you were talking about. Like with the Bret Easton Ellis, with American Psycho and all that. And I wouldn't label those as comedy. They have some comedic moments. But you know what? I'm just going to go.
There are satires.
Can I go into final thoughts?
Go for it.
Okay. Final thoughts on this movie. If I had to recommend it, I'd say no. But
No.
but I did find myself enjoying fair pieces of it. I didn't go through this whole thing like, this is gonna suck. Don't get me wrong. First 15 minutes of this movie, I was like, this is gonna suck.
I was that way through the first second.
The pacing was terrible. Everything was wrong. But
Everything was wrong.
As I got into like what it was trying to do and how its humor was, I found myself enjoying more and more of it. It's only when when it came to that last shot, when it came to the part where like, I'm going to take over now. Disappear, that. I assumed there was still 10 more minutes of showing how this was going to unfold, of how something was going to happen. When it smashed to the title after that, I went, what? And then I was like expecting a mid-credit scene or something, anything to give any sort of resolvement.
We did wait the whole time.
I felt let down by this ending. There wasn't a lot of plot. The plot was, hey, I'm going to get into the frat. I'm doing all I can. They find out I'm poor. I'm not in the frat. This really all comes from character development side. And seeing how this character moved from bookworm tryhard to tryhard douche to everything is lost. But I expected there to be one more step afterwards. And they never had one. So, all in all, for this movie, technically fine. Comedy, hit or miss, depending on your taste. The real downside to it is there's no closure. I feel wanting more, not out of the fact that I really like the movie and I want to see more in this universe, but wanting more just in the fact of basic story structure has been given up here.
Give me a plot.
Yes.
Yeah, but basically, at the end of it all, what I have here is I feel that this is multiple movies shoved into one. And it doesn't know which one it wants to be the main arc. You can have multiple subgenres and themes running through any type of film, and that's great. Some people do it really well. But at the same time, though, you usually have like one type of genre or theme or through line that you gravitate the main plot towards, so everything else off of that has something to feed on. So if this was supposed to be a satire on frat life, then okay, that's your main theme. But not everything went to that. I think what I have the most problem with here is that the movie doesn't know what it wants to be. And it throws everything in the kitchen sink at this movie. And I actually kind of commend it. I commend the filmmakers for doing what they did. From what I understand, when I was researching this, is that this was the only feature film out thus far from the directors of this movie. And they're coming out with something else, I think, this year or next year. But at the same time, it's not a horrible first film. It's not great. It's got major flaws, major structural flaws. Most of the major flaws with this movie are in its script. The acting is kind of, with some of the people, it's on point. It's bombastic. It's satirical.
Oh, yeah.
It runs with the premise.
For the style that
I didn't care for the main character. I did not care for the main actor.
I cared for him once he made his change. When he was in the bookwormish thing, I'm just like, here.
See, I didn't buy it. I didn't buy any of it.
I didn't buy it per se, but I enjoyed it.
See, I didn't even enjoy it though. It was too much for me. I liked Billy. Billy was my favorite character. I did like the leader of the frat. He was ridiculous.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that was all kind of going through with what I was going to expect with this movie. But overall, I gotta say that the movie didn't really impress that much. It took me a lot of mental effort just to remember the fucking title. I will say, though, that the poster is actually really interesting. Mm-hmm. It's like if Rushmore was a party movie.
Just put up the poster there.
Yeah, it's like it's a fun image. Mm-hmm. But other than that, this movie is forgettable and not all that really particularly enthralling to me. So,
and that is our thoughts on Frat Star.
Well, I will say one thing, David. I do think I feel a little better. Got some anger, got some frustration out.
See, that's all I'm here for. You know, relaxation, chilling out.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, the weekend's technically started. Thursday's the new Friday.
Wait, today's Thursday?
Yeah.
Fuck!
What's wrong, buddy?
You are the worst possible being on the planet. I had deadlines this week. I have deadlines every hour on the hour. You don't know the stress that I'm under, you bastard!
Matthew, I've tried for so long to de-stress your life, but you just couldn't listen to me. You had to do things your way. That's not gonna happen anymore.
What in the hell are you talking? Oh.
We'll be doing things my way from now on.
Made possible by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.